New improved version.
Yeah.
Chuck, I've seen you more in the last week than I have 20 years.
I get bored with me.
And you're not done yet.
And I'm not done yet.
We'll see you tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm sure
tomorrow
we're
morning.
Kevin.
Kevin's the last group.
He just got that like an appendage.
Maybe we should just ask, is there anything else you need?
It's just, well, it's something that you can use and see faces and
Well, I guess we're ready to start.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Appreciate again the opportunity comes for you again. Like we said, we haven't seen each other for 20 years. I would see you every day.
Oh, I know it.
I'll see you tomorrow and the next day. We're just happy to have the opportunity again to be involved in public works if you want us. We have a lot of good people. Again, same two team. You can see all the people there, immense staff that we have back at Norcross that would do this. And I have two people here that some of them you know that are going to make a presentation to us. And Joe Johnson's going to start it. He is the project manager for this, and I'll have him start the presentation. Go ahead, Joe.
Actually,
Oh, that's right. Michael,
that's right. I know a few of you actually live here in the city of Brookhaven, so I'm actually really excited to be here, and it's sort of I don't want to say a dream come true, but it's pretty exciting to be able to see everybody here and see the city moving forward. I've worked and lived, at least in Brookhaven now, for about 3 or 4 years, and in DeKalb County now for a little over 11 years. So I've had an opportunity to kind of see everything evolve. Slowly, but surely we kind of got there. I was reminded that I needed to make sure that I kept this short, so I'm trying to do my best. Just because I'm excited, I definitely have a lot to say about all the things that we got to be able to do. Because I've lived here, I know the strengths we have as a city, but also really know about the opportunities that we have to be able to do improvements, the things that we can actually try and be able to move forward. From personal experience, I've been stuck in traffic, and of course a lot of you, I'm sure, have gone through that. We can name Peachtree, Dresden, Brookhaven, at least within Deerfield Highway, watching all the folks moving in and out of traffic. So there's a lot of things that we can actually move forward and try to make a difference in there. Whether we talk about traffic control or signs, street changes, there's always some flexibility and a lot of things that we can actually do as part of that. The other thing that I also bring to the table is as a father. I've had the opportunity to be able to go to our parks and see the capabilities of what we can do with adding sidewalks and actually be able to do a lot of sidewalk improvements. So it's not just roads, but we have the capability to be able to make those changes in there. And most importantly is the ability to be able to work on these projects for the city itself. And that's, I think, is going to be a good opportunity to be able to make sure that people get home on time for dinner, make sure that kids can safely walk through our parks and get there and be safe in our parks. So that's really going to be one of the items that I'm, as a resident, I'm actually looking for. Be able to see some of these changes. From the perspective of as a taxpayer and as a civil engineer, that's really my background. I'd like to be able to try and approach each project as cost-effective as we can. That's going to be one of the challenges. It's not going to be a matter of simply picking projects because we want to be able to spend the money, but trying to be selective and trying to be cost-effective as we go through some of these. And that's really an approach that we do with Jacobs. That's something that's the bottom line. That's what we do in every single project. The other item that we're going to discuss with Joe is our relationships. We're within DeKalb County, and I've worked with DeKalb County in the past before. And we're still going to have to be able to maintain that relationship with DeKalb County, so we can't forget that they're going to be there, and we're going to need to be able to provide some continuity as we move through. So that's going to be something important to be able to maintain that relationship. I think as the city gets successful and moves forward, there's going to be an opportunity for our property values to be able to go up. So there's a big impact that we can do from the public works side of it. So that's something that I think is going to be important for a lot of us. And Mr. Button talked about how big we are. But the reality is that the local relationships is really what makes our office shine. You know, and it's not just because we're local, but you got somebody who actually physically resides within the city. And it's something that I have the opportunity to be able to see all of those issues firsthand. So again, we're local. We have the opportunity to be able to move ahead. We've got a lot of experience working with a lot of different municipalities on the public works side. You know, from the labor in the street who's doing the work, all the way to mayor, council members. We need to be able to interact with everybody, not just from the top to the bottom, but everybody in between. And that's one of the things that the face that we're going to provide out there for everybody. The other item that I want to be able to talk about is, again, how important it's going to be for us as the Jacobs to be able to interact with the city and really be one single team. And it's going to be important for us to be able to move forward. It's not just the city, it's not just Jacobs, but we're going to be there with you all the way through. And that's going to be something important for us. With that, I want to go ahead and pass it to Joe, and then he'll be able to tell you more as to how we plan to be able to implement all that work.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. Michael's done a pretty good job of telling you what we know about your community. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to get this accomplished, and that's probably one of your more major questions you have. A little bit about myself. I am a registered engineer. Probably tell from my accent I'm not working here in Atlanta. I'm a little more from South Georgia. Started out I did go to school up here at Georgia Tech, but was down in Macon. We were running the road improvement program down there, which is about a $300 million program to redo the city streets and the county roads. We call it pennies for potholes, and that's really what it started out as. It was just real similar to the needs you'll have. The roads down there had been neglected for years, and the citizens really needed that change. Started out there, and we built that into a capital improvements program. I did that for about 7 years. We took everything from the basic concept for a project through design, right-of-way acquisition, on into construction, actually managed the construction until we have a finished product. Past several years, I've been in Columbus, Georgia, running Jacobs branch office down there, office of about 30 people. Our specialty down there is infrastructure improvements. Columbus is a very old city, older than Atlanta is. So we have some infrastructure that's over 200 years old, and that's what we specialize in, is rehabilitating pipes, investigating it, managing sub-consultants or contractors that go out there and find these problems. So that's the background I bring to the table as I'll be your public works director, is how we're set up on the org chart. Now, how we're going to actually implement the public works department. Traditional public works departments can have 5, 6, 7 different divisions. I really believe that y'all have an opportunity here to really have 2 departments. You'll have an engineering/capital improvements department and an operations department. Our concept is to have myself as the head of the engineering and capital improvements program, and have Michael head as the operations department. On your little handout here, we just gave you a little listing of the different things that come under the engineering department: the traffic services, planning, stormwater management, and capital improvements. And this is just a snapshot of some of the local staff that we have available that that can work on this project as the need arises. Now, we realize on day one, there's really only going to be a need for 2 or 3 of us to get in the door and start ramping things up. There'll be some times where we might have a need for a lot of people. We have those resources just 10 minutes down the road. There'll be other times where we will not have to have that big presence in your office. No need to have the city to pay for that at a time. So like I said, we have the resources in the background to be able to ramp up and ramp down with your needs. Really, the second part of my presentation is what are we going to do in the first 30 days? And I think that's really the most important aspect of all of this. And we kind of sat down and made a list of things we thought would be important for you. And really our biggest one was what's our response plan for the citizens? Because on day one, the phone calls are going to stop going to DeKalb County. They're going to come here. And we have to have a plan. What's going to happen when a traffic signal comes out at one of your major intersections, or there's a pothole? On day one, we're not going to have the services in place to go out there and fix that. So what's our response plan? How are we going to interact with the county? How are we going to interact with other municipalities in the area to take care of problems like that? So then we have to open these lines of communications with the other departments, the law enforcement, community planning, communications. So how are we going to deal with our citizens' complaints or their expectations? And that's really a big one, managing the expectations. And we're going to have to document what we do. We're going to have to have a way to log all our the calls that are coming in, what our response time is, how are we going to prioritize these things. We're going to have a lot of complaints that come in, but maybe only a few of those need action right now. The rest of them we can put off, but we still have to address that. We have to let the citizen know that those are going to be something that we need to address. Some other items that we came up with, we're going to have to interact with DeKalb County, as Michael said. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of history in this area, but it's probably not the best format. We're going to have to use our relationships, go down to the county, and find that information so we can bring it back here and put it to good use. There's no point in y'all reinventing the wheel when there's already that information there. One of the other major things we're going to have to do is get your service provider contractors up and running, and that's part of our operations staff that Mike will be heading up. Having those on board as quickly as we can will allow the city to respond to your citizens' needs. And then really the last thing we'll start working on is your framework for your capital improvements program. And that's really what the public works, the other half of public works is. You have your daily maintenance, then you have your long-term plans. And that's something that's not going to happen on day one, but putting that framework together and start working on that capital improvements program is something we need to start. Joe?
Thank you, Joe. They kind of short to the point, but we've had a lot of people here that can do all the work. We have a huge traffic engineering department that can help with all the traffic issues that you have. With that, we're excited that this opportunity presents itself to us, and we're open for questions.
Here's my one question. What is the first task you approach in standing up your apartment, and when can you start?
We can start right away, but Joe?
As I said just a second ago, I really think a protocol for dealing with the citizens is really our first thing to do. When we get that call on day one, how do we respond to that? Once we have that program in place, I think we can go to the next step of having meetings with your staff and the folks that are here. I realize it's small, but what are your expectations? What are the things we need to respond to begin with? But really starting with the responses to the citizens. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Michael.
Well, one thing we're also going to have to worry about is trying to interact with all the other different departments. So whether it be parks, we're also going to have to make sure that we can interact with the police department. So these are going to be things that we're going to have to quickly start establishing those relationships, not just external, but also internal as well.
And back to your question, Joe's ready to start whenever you immediately.
Can I ask a question off this list?
Sure, we'll have to send it to the other.
Yeah, this is a good question for all the people.
Good.
And have y'all seen the other bids from the other?
No.
How would you differentiate your firm from the others that are bidding on this for the city?
One, I think, differentiate, and it's hard because I've not seen the proposals, but one thing that strikes me is that we have a lot of people that have done a lot of work in the metro area. And personally, I have a lot of interaction with DeKalb and its people. It's all the way from Burl Ellis, which I know personally, all the way down to the system where our staff is. So from a communications point, understanding how the county works is one thing. I think we should, I don't know if they have that or not because I haven't seen that proposal. Second thing, we are one of the largest firms in metro land and in engineering and doing this kind of work. So we've got traffic engineers, people who put up street lights, street signs, and we understand how those systems all work. So again, I don't know what Lopez, he's a good firm, don't work with him, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I think that would be another area where you differentiate yourself.
Right.
So it's the ability to be able to have that deep bench. We can, Joe and I, we have a pretty diverse background. So we'll have an opportunity to be able to tackle any issues immediately. And as we have the field to be able to get somebody else to provide some expertise, we can easily reach in there and pull them in. And that will limit the costs.
And also, back to your question, one thing we also do different, maybe, is the fact that we can ramp up and ramp down. I know it's been talked about a lot since we've been involved, and that's been our approach from day one.
Right.
If you need 4 people, we got them. If you need 1 person, we have them.
Unique qualifications would be a better way for me to say it, since you don't know what to differentiate. So not that you get it.
And I guess along those lines, we are going to be ramping up and ramping down, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but early in the process, what do you see your staff looking like, and what your focus is going to be, and then transitioning to what later in the contract period.
I would say on day one, you're probably looking at the two phases here. I would see us having some administrative support. Then we wrap up with the service managers for the contractors. That would be the next people we bring on. And then as the capital improvements start to develop, you would have project managers that might come on board if you had some big projects and come back down. So that would be really what I'd see. The two of us would be the faces you'd see probably through the whole process.
Correct, because you're going to have some immediate short-term needs versus some of the longer needs. So we need to be able to, the core, come in there, try to determine quickly what things need to be taken care of quickly. The potholes, issues with lighting, things that need immediate response. And then we got to start looking at that CIP long-term as well.
You want to address also from the traffic engineering side?
The person, he's really first on the list here, Perry Banks. He's a registered engineer, so has been working on the CAP signals for quite a while. He'd be another person that you would see frequently, but again, he is not somebody that would necessarily have to be here full time. He'd be somebody that would be here as needed. But once the signals are really inventoried in the systems and how they work are up and running, that's really not necessarily a position you're going to have somebody sitting at a desk all day long.
But we have that expertise.
But we have that.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just clarify something?
Sure.
You talked about your first 30 days setting up your response protocol, but how soon are you ready to fill potholes? Within that first 30 days, the next 30 days, or I mean, are we talking about like from now to the 17th, or? Because I mean,
It depends on the contract calls for us to hire, not us, you to hire people to go out and actually fill those potholes. So it depends. I know that going through this whole process, I know you're working on getting those RFPs out. So us to manage that process, I think, is pretty much immediately. It's just a matter of, if you want us to review the RFPs, you want us to be involved in the bidding process, looking at but once that's done, they will be geared up to do it.
Along those same lines, emergency services, we take over the roads on the 18th, and we have an ice storm on the 19th of January. What are we ready?
And that's one of the things I said, the communication lines with the other departments, and it's not only the other departments within Brookhaven, it's the other departments within the county, because a lot of those services you're just not going to be equipped to handle those. So we have to have a written protocol, so every one of you, and every one of us knows exactly what to do when a situation like that happens. And it's there's going to be some emergencies that nobody's going to have a protocol for, but there's some basic ones that the Public Works Department runs every day. And we're not reinventing the wheel there. And we need to have those in place. The person who answers the phone knows who to pick up and knows who to contact and who to call.
Put a stop sign down.
Did you ask a question about when they'll be prepared to start?
Yes.
And you said immediately, right?
Yes.
So between immediately and the end of the 30-day notice period, is that not when you would be doing your scripting and your understanding of how the communication link should be? So basically, on the 17th, you have that all in place.
Yes.
So on the 18th, we get that snowstorm, that communication link. We don't have to worry about you starting up on the 17th. That's
That's
I just want to
correct. And
get
of
clear
course,
on
and
this.
it's not going to be a set protocol because the protocol will change over time. On day one, it's going to be Cap County that's going to respond to these emergencies. Hopefully, in a very short time, in a month or two, it's going to be the city of Brookhaven that will respond to these emergencies. And that's the goal we're all moving towards, is to
We are, no,
take the services here.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
And obviously, the tree falls down.
That's probably a better example. Thank you.
Cutting up the tree. If we have a contractor involved already, I'm up, and he'll be going and cutting the tree up. But if we don't, that protocol, the IGA, will be to keep cutting.
Right, and the tree falls down and hits the power line, we got to be able to start communicating that to everybody else and get those folks involved as well.
Anything else?
You folks have had a long day.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope you have a great holiday.
You too. Merry Christmas.
See you around. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.